You're listening to Jaymie Icke. This is episode 4 of the Unreported Truth. Today's topic, as advertised in the last video, is going to be Geo-Engineering. Now, this is a pretty new one for me. It's something that I'm not that informed on, I'm not that well read up on, so I'm learning as well with this. I'm going to start off with a definition of Geo-Engineering from Wikipedia, which is not necessarily the most accurate, but it's a start. Geoengineering deals with the discovery, development, and production and use of subsurface Earth resources, as well as the design and construction of earthworks. Geoengineering is the application of geosciences, where mechanics, mathematics, physics, chemistry, and geology are used to understand the shape of our interaction with the Earth. So it includes stuff like mining, fracking, underground infrastructure. Here it talks about contamination transport for things like nuclear and hazardous wastes. Now, one of those words in there is fracking, which is something that's becoming quite a big topic at the moment, particularly obviously in the UK where I am. You hear about it quite a lot. The place where I grew up on, actually, the Isle of Wight, has now been deemed a fracking zone. The whole of the island has fracking available, if you like. It's an area where they can do it, and it's an island that's been very renowned over history to be very unstable in a way. And some of the controversial side effects and hazardous things of fracking are things like landslides and environmental damage. So I'm just going to go into fracking for those who don't know too much about it. Fracking is the process of drilling down into the earth before a high pressure water mixture is directed at the rock to release the gas inside. Water, sand, and chemicals are injected into the rock at high pressure, which allows the gas to flow out to the head of the well. The process is carried out vertically, or more commonly by drilling horizontally to the rock layer. The process can create new pathways to release gas, or can be used to extend existing channels. Now, there's an element here which says, why is it controversial? And if I go through that, it says the extensive use of fracking in the US, where it has revolutionised the energy industry, has prompted environmental concerns. The first is that fracking uses huge amounts of water that must be transported to the fracking site at significant environmental costs. The second is the worry that potential chemicals may escape and contaminate groundwater around the fracking site. The industry suggests pollution incidents are the result of bad practice rather than an inherent risky technique. Now, that's a similar kind of scenario to nuclear power stations and the leaks from there, which are supposedly bad practice rather than the site itself being actually dangerous and the idea of nuclear power being dangerous. There are also worries that the fracking process can cause small earth tremors. 2 small earthquakes of 1.5 and 2.2 on the Richter scale hit the Blackpool area in 2011 following fracking. Now, this is a quote from Professor Ernie Rutter from the University of Manchester. It's always recognised that as a potential hazard of the technique, but they are unlikely to be felt by many people and are very unlikely to cause damage. He's referring to the earth tremors there. Finally, the environmental campaigners say that fracking is simply distracting energy firms and governments from investing in renewable sources of energy and encouraging continued reliance on fossil fuels. Shale gas is not the solution to the UK's energy challenges, said Friends of the Earth campaigner Tony Bosworth. We need a 21st century energy revolution based on efficiency and renewables, not fossil fuels. That will add to climate change. Now, climate change is obviously something that I don't agree with. I'll do a video on that, I'm sure, in the future about my opinions and views on that. Now, I think climate change is being used in the same way that energy is, in the way that it's worth big money to certain people. And over the last decade, you've seen many people come with lots of renewable and, in some cases, free energy sources, and they get shot down in flames, and in some cases have legal injunctions to prevent them from doing that kind of work. And you ask yourself the question there, why? There's mainstream scientists every single day supposedly working in laboratories to come up with new and more efficient ways to do certain things. So why are we not exploring new and efficient ways and more beneficial ways to everyone of gaining energy and warmth, light, heat and electricity? Now, when you're talking about the Earth's atmosphere, which is something that is absolutely crisscrossed with electromagnetic energy, it's all around us. You can't see it, but in the same way you can't see a wireless internet, but you know it's there because your computer taps into it, your phone taps into it. Now, a lot of people have come up with research and come up with products that tap into some of the electromagnetic energy that's in the iosphere and in and around in the Earth's atmosphere, and as a way to draw that into creating power, warmth and electricity. It's not something, like I said, I'm massively read up on, but I think it's very interesting, and it's something that doesn't get mainstream coverage and doesn't get investment and doesn't get, you know what I'm trying to go with. I'm trying to go with the comparison between the amount of time and effort and money that's invested into things like fracking compared to things like that. Because free energy, all of a sudden, there's a lot of energy firms and a lot of people that have got a lot of money invested in these firms, that then all of a sudden that's not worth anything. Which, when you look at the correlation between those people, and I will guarantee that those people are people in positions of power, or those in positions of power have invested interest in these companies, and that's why things like that don't happen. It's exactly the same kind of scenario to what I've spoken about in a couple of videos before, about the way that money rules everything, and money talks to these people, whether it be to cover up, political paedophilia, whether it's a bill to not allow this kind of thing to be invested in and to be researched and to go any further, whether it's war, those kind of things. Now, looking at it from a completely another angle, which is, you've got something which is very controversial. To people that are very read up on fracking, they are adamant of its dangers and adamant that it's not something that we should be doing. Forget the fact that it's not renewable and it's not necessarily efficient because it's still relying on fossil fuels. Just the side effects of it. The potential environmental damage it can cause. You've got the massive volumes of water, when there's people dying every day in the world because of a lack of fresh drinking water. You're talking about potential earthquakes in places where they've never been had before, which brings in massive potential disasters. I mean, they say that it's a potential hazard, but it's very unlikely to cause any damage. Who knows? That an earthquake is not a fixed thing. It's not something you can try and predict, but it's not something you predict to the letter, to the T. And then you've got the potential side effect of it damaging and poisoning, or whatever, the water supply. Now, I always use, when I'm trying to explain to people some of the things that are going on, and just like when you're trying, not rather than a specific topic, when you're just trying to say, look, something's not right, I always use the analogy that if someone came to the planet that's never been here before, and you had to explain to them how things were and how things went about, and what life was like, what the human race was like, they turned around after 30 seconds and go, "You lot are crazy. You're talking about poisoning your own water supply? You kill each other because someone's got a different colour skin or believes something different to you? You're going to poison your own water supply? We're going to support that?" It's absolutely crazy. It's something that I'll never understand, and I think that, perhaps people were just simply not necessarily read up enough. I mean, until it got into the mainstream and people started to protest. I personally didn't know too much about fracking. I genuinely think that perhaps this is something that as a race we don't do well enough. We don't ask questions. We accept. If someone in a suit and a tie on the television says this is the best way to go, if someone comes around to your house to fit a smart meter and says, "Oh, this is what it does. It's the best thing for you to do," how many people are really going to turn around and go, "Well, actually, hold that sec. I'm going to look into this myself." Same way with vaccinations, with mobile phones, with Wi-Fi, with everything. So many things. That's the same. And I'm not. This is not me having to go at anyone at all, because I've been guilty of it myself. Like I said, I didn't know too much about fracking until it made mainstream news. And we do suffer as a generation from effectively unless it's been there, done that, and it's said, then we don't question it. Until someone says on the news that, using an example, until someone says on the news that, for example, Cliff Richard, who had his house raided a few months ago, no one believes that. Now, granted, there's not been any evidence to come out, but until it's said on BBC News, this is what's happened, no one will believe it. In the same way that until it's effectively, until water supplies are poisoned, until earthquakes happen, until some of the there's water shortages. People are not necessarily going to look and accept that these are side effects of things like fracking. They're just going to go along with it in the same way that we go along with pretty much everything. And that's something that I think as a generation, and if you look back through history as a race, that we do very, very badly. We don't question enough. We accept what we're told, we accept what we're given, and we don't look beyond the fence and go, right, okay, that's what they're saying. Let's see what other people are saying. You're talking nearly 15 years on, and you still hit a brick wall when you try and talk to people about alternative theories to what happened at 9/11. One of the biggest events that shaped my generation, anyway. And people don't want to talk about it. They dismiss it. In some cases, they tell you, don't even do that, respect the families. It's like, excuse me? Accepting mainstream garbage. Is that respecting their families? So, I've kind of gone off topic from Geo-Engineering, but I feel very passionate about this, that this is something that we definitely need to improve on, because unless you start questioning, if the mainstream media did their job, what happens would not be allowed to happen, because the stories would be broken, questions would be asked, and the cracks would start to appear. The cracks do start to appear when questions are asked, when it's examined. It's not rocket science. The game is not well covered up. When you examine it, when you look deeper into the truth, when you cross-examine, the cracks appear very, very easily. But the point I'm trying to make, and I've made, is that we don't do that. As a race, we don't do that. We sit back, we accept, and if you do that, then you're always going to be in the dark. Half the truth is always a lie. Half the truth isn't the truth, it's half of a story. And that's what usually you get in the mainstream, you get half the story. And if you know half the story, you're not in a position to make any judgment. Yet people do. They receive half the information and they form their opinions based on that. Like I say, I've gone off topic, but that's something I feel very passionate about. And you can't look back and survey the world and kind of disagree with that fact that we do not question enough. We do not stand up and go, right, that doesn't sound right to me. I'm going to check this out. Or, okay, I get what you're saying, but I'm going to check this out. I'm only 22, but when I have children, even if I wasn't into this information, when they offer them vaccinations, from now on, right, I'm just going to check that out. Well, why are you giving them that? Why do you want to do that? Why do you want to do that? If that's all it would take, that's all it would take to start the ball rolling. So the moral of it is, let's start to question, let's start to examine things on a much bigger scale. People seem to sit there and expect the truth to be given to them, expect information to be given to them. And if you do that, and you behave like that, then you're a sitting duck for someone to come and manipulate you. Because unless you're seeking it yourself, they're just telling you what they want you to believe, which is exactly what the mainstream media is and does. It's a publicity exercise for larger corporations and political firms. It's nothing more than that. And the UK and America, it's worse than ever. And worse than ever now, at a crucial time when information is at a premium and we need to start questioning and learning much more about what is really going on and what is behind what is really going on. Thank you very much for listening. I'll be back tomorrow, and I don't know what I'm going to talk about tomorrow. I might put it out on Facebook and see what people want me to go with. But thank you very much for listening, and I'll speak to you soon.